I want you to picture a crowded train platform. It's the peak of rush hour. The air is stagnant. You can feel the collective exhaustion. A train pulls in, the doors hiss open, and inside that packed car, a single window seat suddenly becomes available.
In that split second, before anyone even moves, there's this complex psychological drama that unfolds.
It really does. There are people on the platform who immediately start to analyze the whole situation. They're calculating the fairness of it, assessing who deserves the seat.
Or they're critiquing the transit system itself.
And then there is the person who simply moves through the gap and sits down.
That difference, the one between the person analyzing the seat and the person occupying it, that's the core of our deep dive today.
We're going to dissect this critical distinction between holding an opinion and actually taking a position.
Because modern culture has really confused the two. And that confusion is, we think, a primary driver of stagnation.
We're living in what has to be the most opinionated era in human history. I mean, the ability to publicly declare your views is just unprecedented.
It is. And in this environment, the whole concept of positioning has been sort of flattened. It's become synonymous with just taking a stance or building a personal brand.
The belief is that if you have a strong opinion, you've positioned yourself.
But that completely misses the point. It conceals a much more transformative meaning. Real positioning is not about what you think or say. It's about where you stand.
It's a conscious decision to occupy a specific environment.
A physical space, an opportunity.
It's interesting. If you look at the dictionary, you find two very distinct interpretations that really highlight this.
Here's the first one,
which describes positioning as the act, process, or effect of placing yourself in a particular location, a physical act.
And the second definition is what we all think of now. An opinion or a stance regarding a subject.
And society spends almost all its energy debating that second definition. We define ourselves by our stances.
But actual growth, actual leadership, is rooted in the first one. Positioning is a strategic act. It is deliberate movement. You can have the most correct opinion in the world, but if you haven't maneuvered yourself into the place where decisions are made, that opinion just remains theoretical.
Which brings us to a major cultural hurdle, the psychology of blame versus agency.
Yes, there's been a very perceptible shift toward externalizing responsibility.
It's become common to attribute any personal stagnation to parents, politicians, the economic system, your manager.
And we have to be clear, structural realities absolutely exist. Systemic biases are real. No one is denying that.
Of course not.
But distinguishing between acknowledging those constraints and completely surrendering your agency to them, that's the key. When blame becomes your default explanation for why your aspirations aren't met, the act of positioning just gets postponed indefinitely.
Because if the reason you don't have the seat is entirely the crowd's fault, you have no incentive to move when the doors open.
And the mechanism here is about protecting the ego. Blame is a shield.
Right. Positioning exposes the ego. If I say I didn't get a promotion because the system is rigged, my competence isn't in question.
But if you try to position yourself for that promotion and you fail,
then my limitations are out there for everyone to see.
This connects directly to the psychological concept of agency, the belief that you can influence outcomes through your own personal action.
The work of Albert Bandura comes to mind.
On self-efficacy, precisely, your confidence in your own capacity to act. Bandura found that when that confidence declines, people start attributing outcomes to external forces. But when self-efficacy strengthens, challenges are no longer seen as threats. They're seen as arenas for positioning.
So the entire trajectory of your personal development is defined by that difference. The difference between feeling acted upon by the world and acting with intention in the world.
To go back to the train, the person with low self-efficacy sees that crowded car and just sees an impenetrable barrier. The person with high agency sees a dynamic system. They see gaps opening and closing. They're looking for the one variable they can control, which is their own movement.
Let's unpack that train metaphor a bit more. The door is open, the window seat is there, one person reflects, the other person moves.
The seat isn't reserved for good intentions, it's claimed by action. If you don't step forward, someone else will. This is just a neutral reality of physics and of markets.
Spaces that are not occupied don't remain empty.
And it's so important to clarify, this isn't an argument for aggression.
No, it's not about being entitled or shoving people out of the way. It's an illustration of how opportunity actually functions.
In any system, markets, organizations, even relationships, unclaimed positions are inevitably filled by those who decide to step into them.
If you hesitate to lead a project because you're waiting for someone to explicitly ask you,
A colleague who is willing to step into that void is going to take the lead. They might be less qualified than you are, but they are positioned and you are not. The system rewards the occupant, not the observer.
this connects so clearly to mindset theory, the fixed versus growth mindset debate.
It's a perfect mapping. A fixed mindset interprets opportunity as something that's distributed by others, by validation or permission. I'm waiting for someone to give me the seat.
Whereas a growth mindset sees opportunity as something you cultivate through your own preparation and movement.
The person with a growth mindset understands that the right time is almost never announced. You create the right time by being in the right place.
We hear that phrase all the time, being in the right place at the right time. And it's so often romanticized as just pure luck.
But when you actually deconstruct it, that luck is usually just the visible tip of a huge iceberg of invisible preparation.
It's a formula then.
It is. Preparation without positioning leads to stagnation. You're completely ready, but you're nowhere near the action.
And the opposite.
Positioning without preparation leads to exposure. You get the seat, but then you don't know what to do with it. Sustainable growth has to have both.
I'm thinking of an athlete scoring a game-winning goal. In the moment, it can look like a fortunate bounce.
But that goal is the outcome of anticipation, of spatial awareness, of thousands of hours of continuous adjustment.
The athlete isn't debating whether they deserve the ball to come to them.
They're ensuring they're ready and in position for when it arrives. They move to the spot where the ball was likely to go, not where it was. In a professional sense, this means acquiring the skills for the job you want long before the vacancy is ever posted.
There's another parallel here from evolutionary biology and ecology, the concept of the niche.
A powerful one. Ecology teaches us that survival depends on occupying a niche, a specific role within an ecosystem that gives you access to resources. When a niche becomes available, an organism adapts to fill it. Nature doesn't negotiate vacancies, it responds to them. If one species disappears, another moves in.
And if we translate that to our own human systems, in business, your positioning determines your competitive advantage.
In relationships, it can determine the level of respect you command.
The lesson is, if you don't define and occupy your own niche, someone else will.
Or maybe worse, the system will just assign you a niche that you don't actually want. If you don't position yourself as a strategic thinker, the organization might just position you as a reliable executor.
And once that's established, it's incredibly difficult to break out of.
This all leads to a very specific risk in our digital age, an illusion of progress.
We've identified this state where people can be overexpressed and underpositioned.
It's a potent phrase because you see it everywhere. Our digital tools allow us to articulate these compelling philosophies, to critique entire industries, to declare our values, and it feels like participation.
It triggers the same reward centers in the brain as actual achievement.
But you can become an eloquent critic of a problem while remaining completely absent from the arena where that problem is actually being solved.
You see brilliant critics of the economy who have no financial stake in the market. Experts on leadership theory who avoid taking responsibility for a team.
Ideas are abundant. Embodied positioning is rare. It is much, much safer to critique the train schedule than it is to fight for a seat on the train.
And there's an emotional piece to this, isn't there? Taking a stand in action involves real exposure to failure.
Moving toward that window seat might just result in you standing anyway if someone else is faster. Launching a new venture might lead to a total loss.
So blame is seductive. It preserves your internal coherence. If I fail because the game is rigged, then I'm still a winner in my own story.
But if I try and I fail, I have to confront my own inadequacy. The long-term cost of these protective narratives, though, is invisibility. You preserve your ego, but you lose your relevance.
So maybe we can reframe positioning. Think of it not as aggression, but as authorship.
I like that. It's the decision to assume responsibility for your own trajectory without denying that the context and challenges are real.
It means the fundamental question you ask yourself has to shift.
It does. Instead of asking who prevented me from having that space, the question becomes, did I move when the space became available?
And that reframing brings your focus back to the one domain where transformation is actually possible, your own intentional action.
You can't control the crowd on the train, but you can control your own feet.
And true positioning, it seems, is rarely loud or performative.
It's deliberate and it's quiet. It shows up in preparation before there's any visibility and in taking responsibility before there's any recognition. The person who is truly positioning themselves is often the one doing the work, while everyone else is still debating the philosophy of the work.
So in the end, it seems the world doesn't distribute window seats based on aspiration alone. Doors open and niches appear.
The defining factor is not the opinion you hold about the opportunity, but the willingness to step forward and actually occupy that space.
Positioning is not about what you declare. It is about where you stand when the door opens.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Deep Thoughts Podcast. I hope you found insights and inspiration to take with you on your journey of self-growth. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated on new releases and exclusive content. See you next time, where we'll continue to help you grow and explore your full potential.